Hello children, today I am going to teach you lesson 2 of history. Colonial rule in India. The last powerful Mughal ruler was Aurangzeb, and after his death in 1707, many Mughal governors and big zamindars began asserting their authority and establishing regional kingdoms. By the second half of 18th century, a new power emerged on the political horizon, the British. East India Company comes east. East India Company in 1600 acquired a charter from the ruler of England, Queen Elizabeth I, granting the company sole right to trade with the East. According to the charter, the company could venture across the ocean looking for new lands to buy goods at a cheaper price and carry them back to Europe to sell at higher price. The Portuguese established their presence on the western coast of India and had their base in Goa. By the early 17th century, the Dutch were exploring the possibilities of trade in the Indian Ocean, and very soon the French arrived on the scene. That means to trade with India, many European countries came here. All the companies were interested in buying the same things. The fine qualities of cotton, silk, pepper, cloves, cardamom and cinnamon were in great demand. The urge to secure markets led to fierce battle between the trading companies. The East India Company eventually succeeded in defeating all other European powers. So, East India Company succeeded in defeating all other powers and started their rule in India. But they started as trading companies. East India Company begins trade in Bengal. So the first place was here, Bengal. On the bank of river Hooghly in 1651, the first English factory was set up. It was the base from which the company's traders known as factors operated. In the warehouse of the factory, goods for export were stored. The company by 1696 built a fort around the settlement. The company continuously tried to pressurize the Nawabs of Bengal for more concession and started manipulating existing privileges. The officers started using farmans of duty-free trade for their own side business too, which resulted in huge loss of revenue to the Nawab of Bengal. How trade led to battles. The conflict between the company and the Nawab of Bengal intensified. The Bengal Nawabs refused to grant the company concession, denied it any right to mint coins and stopped it for extending its fortification. The Nawab of Bengal refused to grant any concession to the company and denied the right to mint coins. They were not allowed to manufacture coins. They also claimed that the company was depriving the Bengal government from huge amount of revenue and undermining the authorities of the Nawab. That means the company was not obeying the Nawabs. This finally led to the conflict between the Nawab and East India Company. Battle of Plassey. In 1756, Sirajuddaulah became Nawab of Bengal after the death of his grandfather Ali Vardi Khan. He at once ordered Britishers to pay revenue and stop fortification. Also, with the help of his 30,000 soldiers, he captured the officials of English factory at Kasim Bazar and also established his control over Calcutta fort. So Sirajuddaulah started the battle against the Britishers. All these incidents resulted into Battle of Plassey, in which Robert Clive, an army officer in East India Company, defeated Sirajuddaulah. The main reason behind his defeat, that means how Sirajuddaulah was defeated, was that his army was led by Commander Mir Jafar and he betrayed Sirajuddaulah. Mir Jafar, who never took part in the battle because he was promised to be the next Nawab of Bengal by Robert Clive. That means to take the Britishers' side, Mir Jafar promised that he will be the next Nawab provided the Britishers gave him support. Or in other words, we can say that the British officers Robert Clive offered a proposal to Mir Jafar that if Mir Jafar supported Britishers, Britishers will provide them the Nawab of Bengal. What happened after the Battle of Plassey? Mir Jafar became Nawab of Bengal. The company was granted undisputed right for trade in Bengal. But after some times, when Nawab refused further rights, he was dethroned by the Britishers, and now the next Nawab was Mir Qasim. After some times, he also started complaining of the misuse of the powers given to the company. This led to the Battle of Buxar in 1764. In the year 1765, the Mughal Emperor declared company as the Diwan of Bengal province. The revenue it received through Diwani was of great help, as they could now be used for buying cotton and silk and also building forts. This income was also important because after the Battle of Plassey, the income inflow from Britain had slowed down. Company officials become nabobs. Nabobs is the term used for Nawab. As the company acquired more power and authority, the company officials began to imagine themselves as Nawabs or Nawabs. They wanted to lead a luxurious life like Nawabs of India. Many of them were given huge lands and money by the local rulers in order to avoid any conflict with the company. Robert Clive, before becoming governor of Bengal in 1764, had become very rich in India. Because of this, he was cross-examined by British Parliament in 1772 because the Parliament was suspicious of his vast wealth. Finally, he was acquitted from all the charges laid against him, but he committed suicide in 1774. Company rule expands. That means from Bengal they started capturing other areas of India. East India Company had a different way of expanding its rule in India. It rarely launched direct military attack on any Indian territory. It used a variety of political and economic methods to extend its influence. For instance, it appointed residents in Indian state after the Battle of Buxar. Residents were the political agent of the Britishers who served the interest of the company. Through them, the company started interfering in internal affairs of Indian states. One such interference was a subsidiary alliance. According to subsidiary alliance, Indian rulers were not allowed to have their independent armed forces. They had to keep company's army and pay their maintenance. If they failed to do so, the part of their territory was taken away as penalty by the Britishers. In 1801, Lord Wellesley forced Nawab of Awadh to give over half of his territory due to non-payment of maintenance to the British army. Same happened with Hyderabad also. Tipu Sultan, the Tiger of Mysore. Mysore, under the leadership of powerful rulers like Hyder Ali and his famous son Tipu Sultan, had grown in strength. It controlled the profitable trade of Malabar coast, where the company purchased pepper and cardamom. Tipu Sultan in 1785 stopped the export of sandalwood, pepper and cardamom. The company fought 4 wars with Mysore. The first war from 1767 to 69, second 1780 to 84, third 1790 to 92, and the final one was in 1799. Finally, the Battle of Srirangapatnam, company achieved victory. That means the Tipu Sultan lost the war. War with Marathas. The company from the late 18th century was planning to destroy Maratha power. The third battle of Panipat in 1761. The Marathas were defeated and their dream of ruling from Delhi was shattered. They were divided into many states under different chiefs belonging to dynasties such as Sindhia, Holkar, Gaikwad, Bhosles, etc. These chiefs were held together under a Peshwa, who became its effective military and administrative head based in Pune. Marathas were indulged in a series of wars. The first war ended in 1782 with the Treaty of Salbai. There was no clear victor. The second Anglo-Maratha War 1803 to 1805 was fought on different fronts, resulting in the British gaining Odisha and the territories of north of Yamuna river, including Agra and Delhi. Finally, Third Anglo-Maratha War of 1817 to 19 crushed Maratha power. British, the paramount power. East India Company, under the leadership of Lord Hastings, initiated a policy of paramountcy. So, in order to become a paramount power, they started annexation of different territories of India. During this process of annexation, they also faced some resistance at places like Rani Chinnamma, the Queen of Kittur, led an anti-British resistance movement, though she was finally arrested in 1824. In late 1830s, the company became worried about Russia, who it thought could give a tough competition to the company. For this, it tried to secure the northwest frontier of India by fighting a prolonged war with Afghanistan between 1838 to 1842 and established an indirect rule there. It also took over Sindh in 1843. Even Punjab, which Britishers were not able to annex during the reign of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, was finally won over by the Britishers in 1849. Now we know that most of the India was under the control of British because of their vigorous policy of annexation. Doctrine of lapse. Under Lord Dalhousie, who was the Governor General from 1848 to 1856, the final wave of annexation occurred. The doctrine of lapse is a policy devised by him which declared that if an Indian ruler died without a male heir, his kingdom would lapse, that is, become part of company territory. In 1856, the company took over Awadh, enraged by humiliating ways in which Nawab was deposed. The people of Awadh joined the great revolt that broke out in 1857, that is revolt of 1857. Administrative structure. Warren Hastings played a significant role in expansion of the company power. During his time, company had acquired power in Bengal, Bombay and Madras. British territories were broadly divided into administrative units called presidencies. There were 3 presidencies: Bengal, Madras and Bombay. Each was ruled by a governor. From 1772, a new system of justice established. According to the new system, each district needed to have 2 courts, a criminal court and a civil court. The Brahman Pandits have different interpretations of local laws based on different schools of Dharma Shastra. To bring uniformity, in 1775, 11 Pandits were asked to compile a digest of Hindu law. By 1778, a code of Muslim law was also compiled for the benefit of European judges. Under the Regulating Act of 1773, a new Supreme Court was established, while a Court of Appeal, the Sardar Nizamat Adalat, was also set up at Calcutta. The collector was the principal figure in an Indian district. His job was to collect revenue and taxes and maintain law and order in his district with the help of judge, police officers and darogas. The company army. In India, colonial rule brought some new ideas of administration and reform. The Mughal army, composed of cavalry and infantry, it is paidal, that is foot soldiers. The army of Mughal was dominated by cavalry. In 18th century, changes occurred when Mughal successor states like Awadh and Banaras started recruiting peasants into their armies and training them as professional soldiers. East India Company adopted the same method, which came to be known as the Sepoy Army. In early 19th century, British began to develop a uniform military culture. Soldiers were subjected to European style training, drill and discipline that regulated their life far more than before. That means more disciplined life was there. Conclusion. East India Company was transformed from a trading company to a territorial colonial power. In the early 19th century, new steam technology arrived. by 1857, the company came to exercise a direct rule over about 63% of the territory and 78% of the population of Indian subcontinent. Thank you, children. Have a nice day.